Hey everyone, this is Fabio and welcome back. It's been a while, I know. I just checked, I haven't done a video in almost 2 months, but what can I say? Been busy. Being an adult sucks, we know that. But also because being busy with different things also meaning that I didn't have time to play games that often, and it took me a while to finish the game I was currently playing, which is the reason why I'm actually recording this video, and it's to talk about the latest game that I finished, which is Tales of Hearts R, as you can see on the Vita. And what a moment, since this is the second Tales games I played and finished, so from beginning to end, after last year's Tales of the Abyss. And I have to be honest, like, wow, I really enjoyed it. And it's funny that I just saw a video on like on the what saying confirm, like, some people saying it's just a mediocre Tales games, and I was like, really? Because I really enjoyed it. But let's not jump the boat too easily. Let's talk about it. And hopefully I'm not too rusty in doing one of these. It's just been a couple of months and a couple of years, but Tales of Hearts, it's was originally, if I remember correctly, was originally released on the DS by Namco. Later ported on the Vita, hence the R in the title. I think it means like revisited or something. And again, I remember an old video by Dustin Christ talking about this game, because this was released like some years ago now, when was 2013. Yeah, so I'm very late playing this, but when listen to that video saying like we're lucky to have it, because as we know, Namco is not too keen on release the portable Tales games, while on the other hand they have no problem releasing the mainline games. And even though we haven't got a game since Berseria, which it's been some time now, contrary to before when we have like Xillia 2, Zestiria, Berseria, one after the other, now they're taking a much welcome break. Maybe they're just developing the new game. But now, I mean, it's nothing new, but after playing Abyss, after playing Hearts, I can definitely say with pride that I am a fan of Tales of series. I'm really enjoying this game. As I mentioned in my Tales of the Abyss video, like before that, I've only played a good chunk actually of Tales of Fantasia, say like 75–80% of the game. I still need to finish it, and played about 10 hours of Tales of Berseria. Always loved the fact that I played the first and the last, and that was it. But now I really want to focus on the games that I have here in London. So next, I'll definitely going to play, I don't know when, but sooner than later, I hope. Cannot wait to play Tales of Eternia on the PSP, so I can at least finishing the games that I own. So, and then I can finally move to the mainline games, so the Xillias, Fantasia, Vesperia, since now it's going to be released on the PS4 and all other platforms. Finally, it's not just a 360 exclusive. But let's talk about this, other than my own experience with the overall series. Tales of Hearts. The story of the game, it really follows, from what I understand, like some anime or JRPG stereotypes, which I don't mind at all. Actually, I love this kind of stuff. It starts kind of easy in a way. I mean, with these two brothers, Kohaku and Hisui, running away from this witch in Karose, and in doing so, they ended up meeting the main protagonist of the game, who is Core Meteor. And in trying to protect Kohaku and trying to fight Inkarose, our hero, actually by accident shattered the Spiria core of Kohaku, leaving her completely void of any emotion. So you get this unemotional, basically doll of a girl, and Core basically say, damn it, this is my fault, I'm a nice guy, I'm going to recover all the parts of Kohaku's Spiria core, so let's do this. And of course, this is just the premises of the story, because as you travel around the world finding Kohaku's Spiria Core's pieces, you also meet other characters along the way, from wannabe court painter Beryl, the mysterious old guy mentor, old guy is not at all, mentor Gal. Very soon, actually, you start to discover there's something else behind these apparently simple mission. There much more seems to be at stake, and of course, you soon realize, and you're soon involved in this world-changing events. When at one point the fate of the world it's your hands, and together with this party of characters, it is your duty to fight for the survival of this world, basically. I don't want to give too much story away because there are a lot of spoilers here, but kind of like, for what I can remember from Tales of the Abyss, a Tales game, I think, always has this, always can be divided into two parts. At first there is, it's also very typical of, as I said, of JRPGs, that at first the story doesn't seem as big, let's say. For example, I still remember one of my favorite games, Grandia. At first it's just a couple of kids just want to live great adventures, but then of course it goes like way out there. And the same is here. Like, at first it's just this guy wanted to protect this girl from and repent for his mistake. I mean, it's an honest mistake, it's nothing too serious, but at the end, like, Core completely annihilated Kohaku's emotions. So, but and obviously after a while, there is this huge world-changing events that only you can do something about. It's a classic of JRPGs, and I always love that. So yeah, as I said, I don't want to give too much of the story, but let's just say that when the story gets into the second part and when it changes gears, and I think overall gets much. I like the first part as well. I was about to say like it gets much better, but honestly, I enjoyed the simplicity of the first part of the story. And one interesting thing that I want to add on Tales of Hearts is that at first it seems like your typical fantasy RPG, but then, especially with the second part of the story, it transforms into this. There are these huge sci-fi events taking place. I didn't see it coming, but I really enjoyed it, I have to say. And in a way, I kind of say this, almost saying like I almost prefer the first part of the story over the second, but overall I like the story as a whole. Let's move to what it might be the most interesting part of the game, the characters, because it's a good bunch of characters here, and very interesting is the fact that let's talk about the elephant in the room. I think that the main protagonist, Core Meteor, might be my least favorite character in the whole game, because I think he's the less interesting character. yeah, he's not very interesting. He's a nice guy. That's his main characteristic. He always ready to help everyone. The thing is, it's your typical anime JRPG. It's the most typical hero you can get, and that's nothing wrong with it. It's just that it's not very interesting. There is an interesting twist with him by the halfway point of the game that gives the character some more motivations and more. It just add that some, let's say, some pepper, making it more interesting for a while, but it doesn't change that much throughout the story, which it's a shame because, of course, playing Tales of the Abyss, Luke von Fabre, it's obvious it's such a good character, but on purpose, because they created a very unlikable one, and from there he has to go through this journey of development and all of that in order to become, by the end of the game, a fantastic character. With this, with Core, there's nothing like that. It's, again, as I said, he's a nice guy, sure, but that's it. It's not an interesting character. I have to say, probably my favorite characters of the games were most certainly, I would say, Beryl. I really like Ines, and I really like Chalcedony. Kohaku and Isui were alright. They're very likable. Kunzite, it's very interesting. And Gal, I think he was probably the less developed of the characters of the main groups. But in general, I really liked this group of characters. Just the only comparison I can do is, of course, with Abyss. Because, for example, with Berseria, I haven't played enough to really know these characters. But and obviously, there are some stereotypes they're following, but I didn't mind that. But some of these characters are well developed. They have really good interaction between one another. For example, as I said, probably my favorite character was Beryl. I think she was very well developed. She has an interesting story, interesting motivations, and especially by the end of the game, she's very close to other characters. It was very cool. I really like her story. The same with Chalcedony. He has an amazing. He has a really good story and a really good development. In a way, like it's almost like he should have been the main character. Core is so uninteresting. That's the thing. Also, one of my favorite characters was actually Incarose, and she is like not the main antagonist. She's not the main villain, because of course there's the true villain who is like moving all the pieces and all of that. But I really liked her character, especially by the end, when you discover more about the villain and his motivation and Incarose's role in all of this. I think because of that, even though in a way you can say she's shadowed, put in the second place by the main villain, she's so much more interesting. And I keep hoping for a sort of way for her to not redeem herself, of course, because I really like how loyal she is up until the end. But it was to me, it was kind of just such a waste for a character like this to die. The main villain is alright, I think. Honestly, kind of more interesting than the main villain from Abyss, but again, I don't know. I wasn't too blown away by him. There is an interesting backstory there with the whole sci-fi part of the game, but I don't know. I was so more interested by Incarose, and in general, those type of characters, those Metal Knights. This Creed kinda took a backseat to me, but it's fine. I mean, I'm not saying it's a bad main villain. It's simply that again, I mean, his plan was simpler than Valen's, let's say that. I mean, because that's one big thing I have to talk about Tales of Hearts, that I prefer it over Tales of the Abyss. Tales of the Abyss was really terrible for the technobabble. They were constantly spewing this terminology, and after a while I was really losing focus with all of that. Like, we have to activate the Qliphoth, go to the Sephiroth, and there's that and that. I cannot even remember all these names. But it was, at certain point, I was really like, what the hell are they talking about now? Make it simple, call it magic, dude. With Tales of Hearts on the other way, I think it was much more digestible. I mean, the key terms that I needed to remember were just basically the Spira, the Soma, and Soma Links, Despear, something like that, but very similar, very easy, and yeah, much easy to process all of this. And overall, I mean, again, considering that most of the story is quite straightforward, there is just the twist at the halfway point, but again, it's from there it's straightforward again. That just protect the world from this new big villain, and that's kind of it's a simple game. It's that's the thing. It's not an excessively convoluted RPG, not at all. It's very simple. But I liked its simplicity, and it's very old school at heart, and I love that. No pun intended with the heart there. I just realized later. And speaking of that, let's move to the combat system. I loved it, if I have to be honest. I've heard maybe it's not as good as, I don't know, Tales of Xillia, Tales of Berseria, but I haven't played Xillia, I barely played Berseria. With this, I had 45 hours to get good at it, and to me, it was much better than Tales of the Abyss. I mean, it was a later game, was developed later than Abyss, and to me at least, the combat felt very fluid. As I say, when I say all of this, it's always compared it with Abyss. So maybe I remember Berseria being very fluid, so probably that's the best example. But at least I played more of this. So comparing the two games I finished, it's easier. But as I said, it felt fluid. You can move all around the board, and I love the fact that I became really good at this. By the end of the game, I was able to do like 70, at times 80 hits combo. That was it. I felt awesome. It's like, I'm really good at this game. Because I remember with Tales of the Abyss, I wasn't very good at comboing or stuff like that. It was a bit annoying. But with this, I was just like murdering my enemies, destroying them. But and also another thing that, so I heard, like, compared to other, it felt, again, not very good in terms of battle scene, but I don't know, my knowledge with the Tales series is kind of limited. So based on what I know, I really enjoyed most of the things. Like, the soundtrack was pretty good. Let's talk about that. There are some key themes here and there which are very easy to your ears. You can, some more emotional ones, some more adventurous one. I mean, it's not a soundtrack that I would rush to buy, but it's very pleasant while you're playing the game. I don't think I like it as much as the soundtrack of Tales of the Abyss, to be honest. Abyss had some amazing themes here and there. In here, there are some good ones, but nothing that really stands out and make me say, wow, this is a great, amazing soundtrack. I mean, I liked it, definitely liked it, but not too special, if I have to be honest. Graphics, I think this game looks gorgeous, absolutely gorgeous on the Vita, but there's not much to say other than that. I mean, It's a very, very anime-looking game, but it looks very polished. I cannot say much because I love how it looked graphically. So overall, now that I played 2 Tales games from beginning to end, which one is my favorite of the 2? I would say it's a combination of both. I mean, certain things, I think Tales of Hearts felt, in a way, I was about to say in a way felt smaller than Tales of the Abyss, especially like the story in Tales of the Abyss felt epic by the end. There was this, it felt bigger, but thinking about it, especially by the end of Tales of Hearts, I mean, you're in friggin' space, so it is big, and I think that Tales of the Abyss at times was a bit too cumbersome, too convoluted, and also the main plan of the final villain in Tales of the Abyss, again, was a bit overly complicated. It's like, so it does what does it want? Want to do this in order to do this, but because that it's a maneuver to get there, and at the end there is this whole plan with the replicas, and the whole concept of the replicas in Tales of the Abyss was, I really enjoyed it. It was really, really cool. But again, it felt, oh, okay, so that's your plan? Cool. I don't know. But in Tales of Hearts, it's easier to follow. It's much more straightforward, I'd say, but it doesn't, in a way, doesn't pack the same punch. Also because you don't have the emotional journey of the main character to support this, like in Abyss, of course, because you have a really bland puppet of a character. But at the same time, I prefer the combat system. The characters were, I would say, barely made me. The character was almost at the same level of enjoyment because I really liked the cast of characters, both good and bad, in Tales of the Abyss. And obviously, Tales of the Abyss has the advantage of Luke, which is amazing. In Tales of Hearts, you have some really, really good characters, but you have a really weak main character. And but you have some very well-developed character also. As I said, Beryl, Chalcedony, Inkarosa. So as I said, I absolutely love her story. And while in Tales of the Abyss, other than Luke, I remember very well, of course, there's Tyr, who's a fantastic character. I'm sorry, Kohaku, Tyr, it's better. You have, I remember I really like Jade, and you have a similar character in Gal, but it's not the same thing as Jade. There's no comparison. So I think they're very similar. I enjoyed very much both of them. Another thing that I want to mention, another couple of things actually that I want to mention about Tales of Hearts are the voice acting and the Soma system. Actually, the voice acting is contrary to Tales of the Abyss. This, of course, it's entirely voice acted, but in Japanese, which it's interesting. Because of that, it felt so much like I was playing an anime. And maybe that was also one of the reasons why I enjoyed this game so much. It felt like I was playing an anime, also because of the voice acting. And I liked it. I really liked the idea. My ideal, my preferred solution or scenario for voice acting in RPGs. I mentioned this a couple of times in there, but I want to stress this enough again. It's the fact that I want the option of having both English and Japanese. Let me make a decision between the two, which one I prefer the most. A perfect example of this was Odin Sphere on the PS Vita, Lefthrasir, because they were both Japanese and English. I listened to an hour in English, listened to an hour in Japanese, and said, well, I prefer the English one. With others, I might like to prefer the the Japanese rather than the English, but I would like the possibility of the choice between the two. But that's the exception. Most of the time, it's either all in English or entirely in Japanese. And most of the time in English. Most of the time, RPGs are not voice acted. It depends actually, but I really enjoy the voice acting here. Some voices were better than others. What's that? There was a crazy Conundrum. Her voice was just insane. But it kind of fits the character. I mean, most of the voices really fit the characters, I have to say. The Soma system I mentioned before, it's connected with the gameplay, and I really enjoy that, because that's how you unlock abilities and also new weapons. So you don't buy weapons in stores, you can only buy armor basically and equipment, but not weapons. So every time you level up, you acquire some skill points, let's call it like that, and you can spend them on your Soma, so you can upgrade the Soma, which is this sword. The Soma is this sort of spiritual weapon, let's call it like that. And the more you develop, like, your attribute, the character's attributes improve, but you can also, as I said, you can unlock new skills and you can unlock new weapons. I really like that. It was a very neat system, which I greatly enjoyed. So overall, let's try to wrap this up. Tales of the Abyss, there you go. Tales of Hearts R, I think I really enjoyed it. I really had a good time. It wasn't too big. It was I think it was the right length for this game. It was 45 hours, nothing too big, and has a lot of things that I greatly enjoyed. It's nothing special. It will not blow your mind in terms of like incredible twists and turns. Not really. It's kind of predictable at times, but I enjoyed a simpler RPGs here and there. Maybe it's not the best Tales game. I don't know. I have to play the majority of the series still, but I really enjoyed my times with it. And because of Tales of the Abyss, now and forever, I'll definitely be a Tales fan. So, also, if you have a Vita, I highly recommend it. I've heard mixed opinion about it, but I think this is a really, really good RPG, and it's fantastic to have this on the go. Really enjoyed my times with it. And that's it for me and Tales of Hearts R. So thanks so much for watching, guys. I'll see you next time. Take care.